Okay, but if I just did my weekly video in this like fuzzy robe thing, I guess it's technically a sweater, but it's a robe. I really need to not move my eyes so much. I just took a shower. I don't want to put makeup on. I don't want to be a person. I don't want to be in a room with good lighting. This lighting is terrible. I just want to talk about books, okay? Can I just do that? I finished that Star Wars book. The one that wasn't a Star Wars book. Wink, wink. It's a really good book if you can, like, get over the fact that it's Star Wars fan fiction. And like I've said before, I'm not good at that. I can't get over it. I just keep trying to, like, plug things into things and be like, oh, this character is this character, and this character is this character. And I can't do it. But the story is really solid. It's called Oaths of Legacy. It is the sequel to Bonds of Brass. But as you can see, I am not in the best, like, health place right now. And I just really want to talk about this other book. But I did want to, like, follow up and be like, hey, I did make it through the book. I enjoyed every part of it that wasn't, like, my own brain telling me, like, translate this word into something else. Nonsense. I was being nonsense. And it's not fair to take that out of the book. So I really wanted to say, like, Oaths of Legacy, it was a solid book. I actually thought it was very well done in terms of, like, what it's like to take a middle book and have to talk about a character's, like, frustration and, like, political manipulations as a prisoner while having feelings for someone for what is essentially, you know, a couple 100 pages. And I could see that, like, you know, for another author, that would be boring as heck. And I was not bored. My problem was never boredom. It was not that I felt like the book was doing the same thing over and over again. I definitely, even though the character's frustration felt very samey because the situation was very samey. Oh, I am locked here every day and I have to do the same things all the time. I never felt like that was the author not progressing the story. I felt like that was the author actually giving me a very claustrophobic idea of what it's like to be trapped. I felt for the character, and I thought the author did a very good job of that. So, like, let's pretend that I'm, like, being, like, Emperor Pinkatine or something right now. Can we do that? I really want to talk about The Accomplice by Lisa Lutz, which comes out, I think, Tuesday, because holy crap, okay, I'm going to do that thing again where I sound like I don't like a book because of one thing about it, but I really actually enjoyed the shit out of this book and I can't shut up about it. Like, I've talked to my roommate about it. I literally called my best friend just to talk about it, and I talked about it for probably 20 minutes. So, like, thank you, Freggy, for just, like, listening to me babble about this book, which is hilarious because it's about best friends, a guy and a gal. I wanted to say girl, and I didn't want to say girl because she's an adult. So, like, a man and a woman who are best friends, platonic best friends, and how their friendship, like, actually is a huge part of the mystery, because it's a mystery, and to a degree I would say it's a very psychological. I'm not good at mystery genre things because I don't read a ton of them. But let me get into this. So The Accomplice is a book that is basically centered around these two characters, Owen and Luna, who have known each other since college. And Luna has a secret in her past that follows her, but college is taking place in, I believe it starts in 2003. And so it's basically like just on the cusp of the internet. She knows that at any moment someone could know who she is, because the internet is kind of a thing, but it's not such a ubiquitous thing that she'll be known wherever she goes. And it's really, really interesting because it's set in 2003 during this period of time where you can almost hide yourself after something happens, something momentous happens to you, but not quite. There's always the possibility of someone, doing a really good Google search on you. But also there's a possibility that you'll just be able to live your life still. And then you have Owen, who is this guy who is, he comes from this very privileged background. He's very like well liked, but he doesn't do anything for it. And the two of them just like immediately bond, and they have this very close friendship, which is sort of viewed suspiciously by people in their lives over the course of their lives. And this book takes place in two different periods of their life. One is in college, and then like 14 years later, when they are both married to other people and living right by each other, and living the best friend life, which no one would blink an eye at if they were two women or two men. But because they're not, everything is filtered through this. And at the beginning of the book, his wife is killed, and this ends up being like a thing where you follow them through their college time, and then the two timelines are running so that you're getting little tiny bits of information from back then. And so you are basically trying to put together who done it through being like having this information pieced out. So you are kind of following along with the police, but not really. So there's one thing that I didn't like as a writing thing, which is that you're constantly in everyone's head. It's called head hopping. And usually people don't do it. They don't write like that anymore. And I don't even know if they ever wrote like that exactly. But it's constant. You will literally in the same paragraph have the thoughts that are going on in people's heads. And usually what happens, if you're not into like writing stuff, like the craft or whatever, usually everything's done through a point of view. First person is one person's perspective through the whole thing using I. But even when you have like third person and what they call omniscient, usually you're not so deep into someone's head that you're getting their exact thought every single second like you do in this book. And so like you'll have a paragraph where it'll be like Owen's thought and then Luna's thought in the same paragraph, and it's incredibly distracting if you are so used not only to not reading like that, but also having been told over and over again that it's like a sloppy way to write. So it took me about 50% of the book to get used to it and to not be like, hey, this isn't a good way to write, right? I had to deprogram myself from that. And I'm glad that I did, because I actually found the book itself interesting, and not just that, like I'm still thinking about it all this time later. And I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not going to talk. Actually, I don't really want to talk about it any more in depth than that, because it hasn't even come out yet. Like if it had come out, I would be talking so much in depth about this book, but it hasn't even come out yet. But I love how everything about this book feels like you're so there with everybody all the time. And honestly, the head hopping thing, as much as it annoyed me in the beginning, and it never really stopped, like, it never became a thing that I was like, oh, well, that's great. Like, I never loved it. But I I never really like I don't want to like go so far as to go like, well, it really helps you understand everybody. Because you can do that in different ways without feeling like you're constantly wording things the way that she's wording things. Like, it's not like, Owen handed her a cup thinking that he was going to, she was going to drop it because her hands were shaking so much. Not that that's a line from the book, but that's the point I'm trying to make, is that there's a difference between the way that people usually explain things as an third person omniscient compared to head hopping. And like the difference between Owen doing a thing while thinking a thing and letting us know exactly what he's thinking versus saying something like, he passed her the cup, watching the tremor of her hand. See the huge difference between those two sentences from a craft perspective. And so, but it feels like even if she had written it completely differently, I still would have been really obsessed with these characters and what happens to them and how the book ends, and then feeling afterwards the way that I did. And it's so funny because I got into the author, Lisa Lutz, when she was writing these like funny mystery books called The Spellman Files. And I remember I was reading them, and then like my kid was reading them. I don't remember how old my kid was when he was reading them with me, but like we both really liked the first one and the second one, I guess. And then around the third one, like it's all about this like this private eye and how her family has like no boundaries. And then by the third one, we were both like, okay, it's not funny anymore. Our like feelings are hurt by the fact that it doesn't feel like it's progressing to the point where like she needs to like get more boundaries. Like, this is starting to hurt our soul. And I think there are like maybe like 5 or 6 or even maybe 7 books or something, but we definitely did not read all of them, because I think when you read a series, you want to see some like progression in a family like that, and we weren't seeing it. And then we just were like, no, this just hurts us now. And then she put out this like weird book with a friend of hers, which I was just like, do you owe your publisher a book or something? Because it was just like really weird. It was like they were doing like a thing where they were just like, I guess, pass the book to each other and then let the other person write it or something. I don't even know if I finished that one. And then I don't remember hearing anything for a little while, although I think she did write something. And then she wrote this like really moody book. I think that one was The Passenger. And that's where she is now, like writing like these moodier, like mystery, more psychological books. And it's not like she's not funny, because she's very funny. But her books are are more, I don't know. I have this thing with books. If they can make me feel gray and moody, then I'm happy. Hello, welcome back, cat. If they can make me feel gray and moody, sometimes I wonder if it's just me and not even the book, but if they can make me feel that way, I enjoy them. I don't need that for every book, obviously, but I really appreciate that. And to find that with her, and to find that with authors who can also like do that but also have humor through the book, A+. Those are always going to be books that I really enjoy. But also there's a huge thing about this book that I really, really love, and it is the fact that Owen and Luna's friendship is always taken as like this thing that will always be, I guess I want to say like suspect. And to me, that's a really big deal. As someone whose best friend is a guy, we've been friends for 21 years. We have a rule about who we could date or marry, and he is married now, and she is the best. And, you know, we had a rule. You couldn't seriously date someone who had a problem with the fact that we were best friends. Like, and that, because it could be a deal, like it was a deal breaker. And if somebody couldn't understand like how we could, because like we started out, we met and we were like, holy shit, we're like super connected. So of course we dated, because when you're young and you feel super connected to somebody, why wouldn't you date them? Because you don't know any better. You don't know, in a world that tells you that guys and women can't be friends, like, why would you not date somebody that you feel is perfect, in a way that feels, you know, perfect for you, right? And then you date and then you're like, that's not the perfect I was looking for, but it's still perfect for me. And then we had this like period of time where we like didn't talk so that we could adjust our friendship to friendship. And then he broke first. He like left a note on my door that was like, I can't stand this anymore. And I'm like, oh, thank God, me either. And we're like, we're gonna make this friendship work no matter how hard it is. And it was hard at first, you know, because we didn't know how to switch gears. And like then I dated someone, and then he started dating, and like I ended up with that person that I dated first for like years. And he would have these like horrible dating stories. And then I ended that relationship, and then I would have these horrible dating stories. Like, whatever. But also, like, after I ended my relationship, he let me live at his house because I finished college and I needed to go to grad school, and I wanted to go on campus. But I lived, oh God, like in bad traffic. It could be up to 2 hours away. And so I was like, okay, well, I was living in the Pine Barrens. I need to get out of the Pine Barrens. And I was like, can I stay at your place for the summer while I like look for apartments and figure out how all the college stuff is going to work and how much cost of living I'm going to get as a loan, on top of, you know, how much money I'm going to get from the school and blah, 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 blah. Because I hadn't gotten my financial aid package yet or whatever. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. And then I hurt, because I have back problems, I hurt my back moving all my stuff by myself like a fool. And ended up staying at his place for almost a year, had to defer school for the first term while I went to physical therapy again, and learned after that I am not allowed to move things, not a whole house worth of things anyway. And yeah, so he ended up letting me stay for like a whole year with my kid, and that curtailed some of his dating, because people were like, you live with what? Your ex who has a kid? That's not your kid? You don't still have feelings for your ex? And he's like, no, I feel like if you tried to tell me that, you know, if you tried to say anything about us, I would just make this face. Which is true. At that point in time, we had a very like familial, like we were getting the ick. We like had, it was interesting. Like we went through this very like we can't even like talk about like our relationships with other people. Like there was a no sex talk rule. We couldn't like ask for, advice from each other. We had to like ask other people if we had like any issues like that. Because it grossed us out, like literally grossed us out. Like we would go places and people would be like, oh my God, brother and sister, that's so nice. Cause we gave off such a vibe around each other. And yeah, and then I met the person that I ended up marrying, and he met my best friend, and he was like, yeah, no, best friend vibes, absolutely. And then he met my my ex, who I was co-parenting with, and he was like, yeah, you have more vibes with your best friend than your ex. And I was like, wow, because we were still in that brother-sister thing, and I was like, okay, you get everything that's going on here. So that's one of the reasons I knew that he was the one for that time, was that he got it. He got it, and when he met his wife, she got it, and I call her my best friend-in-law, and she's awesome. I love her so much. Yeah. So, anyway, but people have issues with this. I see it on Twitter all the time. Like, oh, if your man has a girl best friend, oh, you get vibes, right? You get vibes, bad vibes. You get the flirty vibe from her, and you get the, and I can't even read like Am I the Asshole stuff about best friends. It's always like, well, she's gonna, I don't even know me. Yeah, so like that thing that people bring and put on your friendship, that is in that book, and I really appreciate the heck out of that. Like, it's like they're not even allowed to have this friendship without people putting their own expectations on it, no matter what. And that very much plays into, like, how everybody sees it. It's like, oh, Owen's wife was possibly killed. It's like, okay, well, let's look at the best friend. Let's look at the husband, but also let's look at the best friend. And it's like, okay, well, why would she do it? Like, they all were friends. That's what you do when you are friends with someone. You don't marry somebody if they hate them. Like, if you're out there and you have a friend and your significant other hates them, if your significant other hates your best friend, hey, one of the two people in that scenario, your partner or your best friend, something is very wrong with one of them. One of those people is probably not meant to be in your life. One of them is really, really sketch, okay? Because if one of them is bringing a ton of joy into your life, but they hate the other one, then the other one probably is not bringing actual joy into your life. They're probably just filling a role. I hate to say it, but it's probably true. Because people who really love you, they want you to have more love in your life. They want you to be fulfilled. They don't want to, like, put you in a butterfly net and then pin you under glass. Anyway, I really loved this book. Yeah, The Accomplice, Lisa Lutz. It comes out Tuesday. Pretty sure it's this Tuesday.